Welcome to the Level Up podcast presented by The Ultimate Gamer, a show that features conversations with the trailblazers, thought leaders, risk takers, decision makers, celebrities, athletes, and investors who are defining the gaming and eSports space. On Level Up, we take a journey into this dynamic industry and start to decode and reveal who and what's making news. It's about connecting, and it's about sharing the stories and vision of the people who make gaming and esports a global phenomenon. As we do in every episode, we'd like to thank The Ultimate Gamer as the visionary and catalyst behind Level Up. The Ultimate Gamer is an esports and gaming, entertainment, technology, culture, and lifestyle organization with the intention of discovering the best gamer in the world. Connecting and celebrating gamers and gaming is at the core of The Ultimate Gamer's mission. And now, please welcome your host, student of the game and connector to the esports community, Tommy Knapp.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tommy Knapp, and this is an all-new episode of the Level Up podcast presented by The Ultimate Gamer. On today's show, I have a conversation with Dena Mekawi, co-founder of ThunderPixel Games, founder of the Mekawi Group. ThunderPixel is a collection of award-winning creators with a shared goal of developing exciting and fun pop culture-themed games. I was honored and humbled to speak with Dena about her work with the United Nations and her unique journey into esports and gaming. She shared some of the challenges she's faced as a first-generation Egyptian Muslim American, and definitely danced around some questions I had regarding the new gaming studio, ThunderPixel Games, which will be opening soon. Dena ran for Miss Arab USA in 2013 and then went on to work for Oprah magazine. Now she travels between New York, Dubai, and Monaco, raising money and investments, and is ready to make her next big play in esports. I'd keep Dena on your radar. Her next announcement will definitely be a knockout. So listen up. Here's Dena Mekawi. First of all, thank you very much, for jumping on. And again, this is really just conversational. It's kind of just the pattern that we're going through now. But what I was doing and what I typically do, there's a lot of people I know in the esports and in the video gaming world, but there's also people in my LinkedIn that I reach out to that look like they're in the space or getting in the space, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for those people to share best practices and kind of how they got involved in the space. And I think you have, based on what I've seen, you have like this amazing background in history, even though you're very young, outside of esports, right? Which I want you to, if you could share that with me a little bit. Yeah. And then it's interesting to see how you transitioned into esports, because I'm one of those that was similar, right? I was in traditional pro sports for a decade, and I didn't get into esports and gaming until like 3-4 years ago. But now, it's been my life for like the last 3 or 4 years. So, right. First of all, it's kind of cool. Like some of the stuff that you're doing, my wife she's has a very good friend that's an author that's always tried to get on Oprah. Oprah's a big deal and everything. So you worked with the Oprah magazine, and you worked with the United Nations, and then I don't know if you feel comfortable just sharing like some of your origin story, like how you got involved with those guys.
Yeah, so it's interesting because whenever I kind of take a step back, and even when I talk to some people that I tell them I'm in gaming, they're like, how does that even make sense? Like, how did you get into gaming? And I'm not gonna, again, to be honest, growing up, I have one older brother. I did used to play games. I used to play Sims for hours. I used to watch my brother play Call of Duty. I used to, I would definitely say I'm very familiar with gaming. So it's not like random. Right. But growing up, and how I kind of got into what I do and my career is that, growing up, I never saw diversity in mainstream media, and that's something that always bothered me in terms of seeing the narrative of an Arab American, not just a reflection but also the story, and so that kind of it was something that I was very insecure about. Even growing up on Staten Island, predominantly Italians and Irish, I was very ashamed to tell a lot of my peers that I was Arab, let alone Muslim. So it was something that I was struggling with in terms of identity. And
how old were you at that point? Were you just a teenager?
Yeah, junior high school into high school. Okay. And then high school, I started seeing more diversity. I was part of like a belly dancing group. I started becoming more involved and seeing more people that were like me. And I started accepting myself more. But then, fast forward, after college, I studied business management and marketing. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
Where'd you go to
But
school?
then I'm like, College of Staten Island.
Okay.
And then I went to do my master's at Pageants University.
Okay.
I didn't really know, I didn't have like a clear vision, but I knew that I loved self-expression. I loved, I write here and there as well. I do poetry, just a form of self-expression, but
Right.
I didn't really know that could be a thing. Telling a story could be a thing or a career, or, nobody teaches that. I feel like in college, nobody really taught us that, or in terms of like, there's a bigger world out there that can really be something that can inspire hundreds
Well,
of millions
college
of
is
people.
amazing, right? Because it allows you to do a lot of theoretical learning, and it allows you to be taught by other professors, but you have to go out there and actually experience things and actually do them yourselves, like you're saying, right? Before you understand that, wow, I can apply myself in this way and I can make a career out of it. I can make a living out of it. Or I can just make a big difference in the world.
Right, exactly. And so I have that mentor. When I graduated college, I was so I used to work at a fashion house. His name was Walter Baker. And then I interned for Diesel before I graduated college. So
love Diesel.
Yeah.
So, Diesel was my favorite like 15, 20 years ago. And now I'm into Psycho Bunny.
Yeah. So I was always into kind of fashion but I didn't really know kind of what I wanted to do past that. So I had a mentor. After college, I applied to so many jobs and there was like no luck. I think for 6 months I was pretty down and depressed and didn't know, feeling worthless. I didn't think I was good enough. And so then I'm like, I was trying to find myself. And I literally used to walk in Fifth Avenue and give my resume. I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll just work a sales job. Like, even though I graduated college, I'm like, you know what, like maybe this is just trying to do something.
Yeah, but like walking Fifth Ave, so you walked into just like different different stores, and just
like Dior.
That's probably to me like the hardest. Takes the most courage. That's hard to do, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Because one time I remember my mentor at the time, he helped me write my entry essay for Pace University. And he's like, what are you like watching Kardashians all day? He's like, go actually be proactive. I'm like, well, I'm not really watching the Kardashians all day, but I didn't feel like I was doing enough. So that's what I did. I actually during it was during the holidays. I think I did work for like a month or few weeks. You know how retailers are crazy during that time.
Right.
So, but then it just didn't feel right. I'm like, I have this degree. I feel like I'm creative. I have these ideas, and I really feel like, I was using my potential. So,
and this sounds like, Dena, this sounds like it's a little while ago. But what are we talking? Is this like 2012, 2015, 2000?
Yeah, 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, feels like a while ago.
And yeah, it's not even 10 years ago.
Yeah. So then I'm like, you know what? I want to pursue my master's, and I explored, what I want to pursue my master's in. And I always, I had a thing for self-expression. And my mentor at the time, he was like, tell your story. I'm like, how is that? At the time I was kind of frustrated. I'm like, how is that even a job? Tell me, like, he's like, tell your story. I'm like, okay, yeah, so what? Like, I had identity issues. So what this, so what that? And I didn't see that as very unique. I didn't think people cared. Right. This is before Instagram hype, and now you see a lot of corporations, incorporating diversity and whatnot. But this is before all that. And I'm just I was very negative, and I was very like, I know, nobody cares and nobody's going to listen kind of thing. So he actually pushed me to have me understand everything that I knew about myself, but putting it in a way where it was creative and it was a form of expression that people might actually listen. He's like, you love magazines, you could be that voice. And he kind of inspired me and put me in that direction. And that's why I really think mentors are important too.
Yeah. So how did you find him? And then like, when you're talking about that process, what does that process look like? Are you creating a resume? Are you just writing like a story about Dena, like yourself, like from third person? Like what is the actual process look like?
It was funny because he was literally, he was recommended to me by a friend. He was he was a former professor at Columbia, and he helps individuals just really editing wise, or focus wise. I didn't think he would be a mentor to kind of guide me in that level. I really didn't. Maybe I understated mentorship at the time. I really didn't have a mentor. And yeah, he told me basically everything. He put things into perspective for me, and he helped me kind of focus what my entry essay should be for Pace University.
Okay.
And then I got accepted. And then through that, every opportunity started coming to me. It's like when you know your focus, you start kind of attracting. It's like everything was there. It's just a matter of now I know my focus,
Right.
So I competed for Miss Arab USA. I was a contestant, and it was interesting because
Was that something you saw as an opportunity, or somebody say you should go do this, or did it just happen to fall in your lap?
somebody mentioned it, and I was watching a commercial or something, and I'm like, what caught me is that there was no swimsuit competition, so it kind of was respectful towards like our culture and our religion in terms of like it really was geared towards like understanding a woman's mind more than just okay, we don't want to see you in a bait. So that's what kind of drew me towards it. So that I was a contestant. I came back and I didn't win, but it was an amazing experience. And
yeah, because that's really putting yourself out there. I mean, you didn't grow up like being in pageants from when you were 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. So and you're going to be on stage, I'm sure, and you're being asked questions in front of a lot of people.
Yeah, and I was the girl that actually used to not make fun of pageants, but I didn't really care for them. So it was like, it was more of like, out of my comfort zone, and it was because I felt like I had an authentic message. And again, I'm not saying a lot of the girls didn't, but again, I would definitely say even being in a pageant taught me a lot about business too. Although I didn't win, a lot of it was seeing different girls who had authenticity, and some of the girls who just wanted the fame and the PR and the photo, photography, like photo shoots, and just, they were amazing women, but everybody had like a reason and a purpose for being there. And it reflected years after they left the pageant.
Yeah, it's really, I don't want to say it's amazing that you say that, but you hear that word constantly in the esports and gaming space, right? Authenticity. Yeah. I think really kind of to your point, I think when people are endemic to gaming and esports and they've been in it forever, I think they don't like to see people coming in from the outside and just projecting, what they believe the space should be, or like how it should run or operate or how to make money. And so what you're saying, I think what happens is people that are authentic are typically, there's a law of attraction, right? You're drawn to people that are authentic. They don't feel phony. They don't feel fake. And so you found yourself, it sounds like you found yourself like in that time and kind of then walked into those, whether it was being in the pageant or, next, if it's Oprah or getting in esports and gaming, but you could be yourself. And I think it's interesting that you say that, because I hear that word, and we all do, I think, in esports and gaming constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was definitely a learning experience. People hear pageant, but I took that as even a business lesson. Like I would have the winner reach out to me asking me, how did I get into the UN? And she was great, but it was just powerful because it taught me like you could have the world in your hands, but if you don't know where to put the pieces and you don't know your purpose, you could have Oprah standing in front of you, but if you don't have the right words or the right things to say to her, it's like that opportunity, it's like it might as well not be there. Right. So it taught me a powerful lesson where it's like you could have a crown, you could have PR, you could have all of that, but you could still not really know what to do with it. You know what I mean? So that was definitely a powerful lesson. I took a step back. I'm like, wait, the winner's reaching out to me? It's like, isn't she supposed to have like a whole team doing that?
Right, right. Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't do anything. I was literally telling my story.
Right.
I was authentic, and it was just kind of like a way or a platform for me to say like, okay, I ran for the beauty pageant. Now what's next? I didn't really hang on to like, a lot of people, I think what they do is like, they use that and just stick with it, and they continue to kind of milk it, where it's like, you should continue to kind of use an experience and ask yourself, okay, how do I use this to get to my next step or my next
Well,
level.
maybe
Don't get too attached.
Yeah, maybe in a way it's their end goal, and when they hit the end goal, they don't have something ready, like you're saying, for
Exactly.
okay,
Right.
now I've won, or even if I haven't won, now I've gone through this process.
Now
What's
what?
next? Yeah.
Right.
So then is that how you kind of found yourself working in the UN and with the Oprah magazine?
Yeah. So when I came back, there was I was given an opportunity. I was doing my master's, and then Pace University. It was a publishing program, digital publishing, and they have a partnership with at the time it was Women's National Book Association, and they're an NGO associated with the United Nations. And at the time I was like looking for internships or whatever that was relevant to publishing. And my program director, she's like, we have this opportunity that they want somebody to represent the organization at the UN. And when I saw that line, I'm like, United Nations, and I Googled it. I'm like, let me just make sure they really mean like the UN kind of thing.
Right.
Growing up, people hear the UN, it was like this untouchable building and organization that like you can't even come near. And it's so I was chosen to represent the organization. It was like for about 5-6 years now. I still do, but it's a different organization now. But that experience alone definitely has expanded my understanding and horizon to just really understand global issues on a different scale. Like it was just, I feel like I was in this bubble, and all of a sudden now I'm like, wow. Like, and it was just eye-opening because I came from fashion. I'm like, people are sitting all, and don't get me wrong, I love fashion, self-expression, but then there's also a bigger part to life. Like there was just so much more that I didn't even know existed, didn't even know that my voice could even make a change. And through that I was able to I brought a lot of more creativity, because one of the things I co-chaired the United Nations steering committee a few times. I chaired the committee for a year or two. I wanted to bring more creativity to the UN. I wanted to be more creative, more youth friendly, more sports friendly, more celebrity friendly. And that's what I did. Some of it was private sector partnerships, creating collaborations with like Cadillac and this organization. It was actually a sports organization called Global Goals World Cup, which
Right.
they use soccer tournaments to raise awareness on various issues. And then they have Nikolai Coster from Game of Thrones as a goodwill ambassador. So really leveraging like celebrity, voices for social impact.
So when you were there, when you went to the UN and you became the co-chair, like the UN, like you were saying, I mean, to most people, the UN is this big building on the east side of Manhattan. It's got its own police force, and it does all these things in the world. How did you actually step into your role, become co-chair, and what department or division was that in the UN that you were under?
Yeah. So it's, at the time it was called, I forgot what it was called, but now it's called Global Communications Department.
But what's its I guess overall, what's its general mission? Because it sounds like you were.
Yeah. So the mission of it was very similar to what I was doing in my previous role and what I studied. It was basically disseminating the United Nations mission to the outside world through media, and I didn't really, I thought I knew that they could do better in terms of and they even told me we want to engage more youth, we want to engage more creativity. And it was definitely a challenge, because you could imagine when, especially an organization like the United Nations, change for them is kind of it needs to be thought out. It needs to be,
there's a certain amount of bureaucracy there. There's a certain amount of levels that have to go through approval, and yeah, for sure. And actually, when you say marketing or promoting to the world, did you actually have a certain region that you were focusing on, or was it just a world message?
So it was in a way global. So I actually, there was a few things I worked on. We did a fashion event at the UN, in which when I first pitched it, they kind of laughed at me. They're like, how does it look like diplomats walking around in fashion? And
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, no, but we actually tied it to a lot of the sustainable development goals of the UN.
Okay.
So the 17 goals of the UN, they're goals in which the UN has declared, and they're hoping that the world adopts, but by 2030 they will achieve it. So it ranges from like gender inequality
By 2030, okay. And there's
yeah
17 of those that are listed
17
right now.
yeah
Can you go like to the United Nations website and see those
yeah
17?
yeah so it's
Because you
called
probably don't have them all in your mind right now, or you just click them right off.
clean water, education,
Right.
infrastructure. It's something like that, yeah.
Right.
But like kind of getting the idea of it. But yeah, so it's basically a framework, if you
Right.
will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, global. I mean, I went to a conference in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh. So it wasn't really exactly tied to the UN. It was UN for in Egypt, so it was geared toward youth.
And
So
when's the time
you know,
frame of this? So approximately when is this? Because now you're moving along the
no,
timeline, right?
that was like a year and a half ago.
Okay, this is just a couple of years. Okay, so 2019,
Yeah,
2018.
yeah.
Okay.
I went to. But yeah, I mean, it's the UN is definitely an amazing platform to kind of you know, understand world issues and, you know, be creative in terms of like how can we, or organizations and sports organizations, use their, you know, voice and use their organizations for impact. So it's been, that was definitely, it still is an amazing kind of journey for me, for sure.
Are you still there working with them now? And do you think esports is becoming ingrained at all in the United Nations, their mission? Do you think there's an
Yeah,
opportunity there?
yeah. So I still represent the organization there. I consult with the UN as well. So there's been a lot of partnerships too with the UN, and they've done a lot with different Disney. They've done a partnership with Disney, you know, highlighting, you know, girls superheroes and stories of girls from all over the world. So they do a lot of partnerships that kind of, you know, like whether it's with Disney or they've done, I'm pretty sure they've done I don't know if it was a cartoon or a video. I don't know about video game, but it's definitely a conversation that we'll be having more of for sure.
Okay.
Even my team were kind of exploring ways to kind of implement, you know, the different goals, 17 goals into our future games.
Right. And your team, when you're talking about your team, that's getting into ThunderPixel Games, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Before you kind of talk a little bit about ThunderPixel, what did you do over at Oprah magazine?
Oh yes. Oprah magazine, so I worked in the editorial fashion department. So basically,
Were you in
Gail, I don't know if
Chicago?
no, New York City.
In New York? Okay, because they're based out of Chicago, no?
The magazine is Manhattan. It's
Okay.
Hearst magazine. It's owned by
Okay.
her. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a great experience. I was in the fashion department, editorial, did a little social media. Basically, Gail and Oprah, I attended a lot of the fashion shoots for them. Did a lot of like, you know, sometimes Gail would come in the fashion closet and ask us like which outfit is best for her good morning, you know, her segment in the morning show that she has. So she'll ask us, so it was really geared towards kind of self-expression, fashion, social media strategy at the time. It was, I think, 5 years ago.
Okay.
So it was definitely an interesting and unique experience to kind of work in a setting like that, for sure.
Okay. So you go through that transition from Oprah. You're working with the United Nations, and then somehow talk to us about the ThunderPixel Games. Who are your partners, and how you ran into these guys, and then really you said at the beginning that you did some gaming, but you wouldn't consider yourself at the time like a big gamer. And just so you know, my story is kind of similar. Like I used to game a while ago. Don't game nearly as much now, but I believe I'm still authentic to the space in the sense where I know what gaming is like. It's just when I started gaming, it was one control with a red button, and it was just, you know, one handle. But my kids are in it. They're 14, 11, and they're in it, and I'm in it every single day. So for you, how did you think you were going to get an esports in gaming? Were you looking to get an esports in gaming? And did it just happen, or was this a path that you were looking to take?
Yeah. So during that time where I was, before I get into how I got into the gaming, that's where I founded my company, Style and Resilience.
Style and Resilience, right?
and now it's also Mekawi Group. But Silent Resilience initially, we worked. It was a PR consulting marketing company that basically focused the niche on social impact. So basically, everything that I was doing and everything that I've seen, and I still saw that there was a gap, in terms of the bridge from social impact, UN world and celebrity pop culture world. So Silent Resilience really acted as that kind of bridge in terms of understanding, kind of partnership development, endorsement deals with celebrities with a purpose. So a lot of it was
Can you give me an example of anything that you did, like anybody that you like something that had purpose and you were able to get a celebrity or athlete or somebody or an entertainer behind?
Yeah. So I worked with, I don't know if you know Josh Norman. Yeah. So
I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but I believe he's a corner, maybe? Was he a cornerback, a football player?
Redskins, yeah.
I actually think I met Josh. It's funny you say that name because I think I met him at an event in Atlanta, DreamHack Atlanta, like 2 years ago. I'm not positive, but anyway.
Really? Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
So I worked with him. I worked with Dr. Oz, their nonprofit. And while I was working with them separately, I was, I started understanding more of what Dr. Oz's nonprofit needed. And so, they wanted to kind of shift their approach to kind of working more with pop culture. And, I seen a potential to kind of engage. This was a little bit before Corona, to engage more celebrities and more athletes to their organization, because the organization is geared towards health and wellness for youth and nutrition. And so I worked with them. I worked with, I told you I worked with Global Goals World Cup, Nikolai Koster. I worked with Alicia and Alicia Keys. So it's funny. I actually, growing up when I had insecurities, and this is why I think media is such an important message for youth. It's like the kind of media that these creators are creating. When I had insecurities, I would actually Google, because I was always curvy a little, and I was very insecure about that. I would start Googling celebrity women who were a size X, Y, Z, for example, or celebrities who have curly hair, because I have curly hair. Like, I wanted to see that reflection.
Right.
And I never saw that. So Alicia Keys was actually one of the women that I remember flipping a magazine or watching her video. And she was just really just refreshingly like raw and real. And I don't know if it's law of attraction, but I became friends with her husband. Fast forward, I worked with him a few times. I mean, we have a great relationship. We're good friends, but I've worked with him a few times on, he has an art platform. And so I actually worked with him to bring an Egyptian artist to win a competition he was holding. And she actually won $5,000 in Egypt. And when Alicia went to Egypt, I basically, I had them on the cover of an Egyptian magazine. So just being able to kind of bring to the light, that kind of diversity and it still is a passion of mine. So just working in the space when I'm working with individuals, organizations, just, bringing diversity to the forefront and giving, opportunities to individuals who might not have had it. This woman from Egypt, she wouldn't have ever gotten discovered, but be able to kind of be that bridge and have those relationships to kind of make an impact at the same time.
And you're still doing that right now with Style and Resilience and the Mekawi Group.
Yeah, so Mekawi Group, so I would say 2.5 years ago, I organically started working with family offices and investors. And
I gotta ask you this though, quick, because you seem to be a very, really good networker, and you seem to be able to, do you meditate? Do you think about this stuff prior to going in? Is it all kind of happening, like you said, organically, like you just said, I kind of feel like Alicia Keys, I connect with her, and because I do, now somehow you just say, well, I'm going to reach out to, who do you reach out to? You ended up befriending her husband, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? And then how does this happen? You know, like you mentioned, you know, becoming involved with family offices, and I mean, how are you making these things happen, I guess, because that's a big part, right, of sharing.
Yeah.
Like you learned from your mentor, a lot of these podcasts are not just about sharing best practices and talk about esports and gaming, but it's about how did Dena do what she's done and at such a young age, and is really making an impact on the world, a
Yeah.
dramatic impact. Like, how are you doing these things?
So one thing I'll just say, I mean, it goes deeper into it, but just being authentic and knowing your why and knowing your purpose. Because before all of, like, when I didn't know who I wanted to be, I was literally applying to like random jobs. I was trying to just do anything. You know what I mean? And it's just like, even when things seem random, they're not. Like, even games. When I first, my friend and co-founder made me a co-founder, I'm like, is this random? Is this just like, am I too all over the place? But then I take a step back. It's like, it's not, because everything kind of, you know, and again, don't get me wrong, when you're an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, a lot of people call me, you are, you know, I always tell people, there comes a point in the beginning when you're building yourself, you got to do the work. You got to do a lot. You know how many times, like, I've done a lot, like, at the very start, I've done a lot of free work for celebrities, for example. I've done, for me to get to where I am now, I had to do a lot of sacrificing. I had to do a lot of because a lot of these celebrities, they're getting left and right. You know, they're getting messages left and right. You know, let me work with you. I could do this for you. I could do that. So it's like, okay, having a great relationship is amazing. A lot of these people love great energy, but it's also, they need to kind of see like, okay, why would they want to work with you?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So a lot of it is definitely,
it's not about taking, it's about giving. A lot of it's about giving.
Yeah.
And so you're walking in, and like you said, you gave a lot of your time, and because you're, first of all, you're learning a lot from them, and you have opportunities, and then that opens doors for you. But yeah, I agree. There's so many times people are wanting something from somebody else. And I think if you go the other way, then you provide and you give, then the doors will open more. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's great
value.
too. Yeah, and provide value. And what you said is know your why, because I think that's a really difficult thing for a lot of people, right? A lot of times people are super busy. I even say all the time when people ask me how I am these days, instead of great or amazing or whatever, a lot of times I say busy, you know, and I think the pandemic, the coronavirus has kind of set us back a little bit. And, you know, some people are calling it a reset, and it lets you kind of refocus and reevaluate what you're doing. And it helps me. And I understand that I have found, you know, my why. I transitioned, but I found my why. And I think it's through this medium, but it's having conversations like this. And I found that it's extremely natural, and then things they seem to happen for you. So I love the fact that you said that. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand as they look at, okay, am I doing, and it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters, right? What you do. I think it just matters to you what that is.
Right. And I think it's also like one thing I definitely learned, and how I got to do what I'm doing is like learning from other people, like you said. Like I love listening to podcasts, reading certain books and self-help books, and trying to figure out, I think, who you are. I think it's an ongoing process, but really understanding who you are, and not really what society is kind of pressuring you or what media is telling you to be. And I think it's definitely important to I think for me, storytelling is always powerful. Like learning how people think and learning why people think the way they think. You know, we could be so judgmental sometimes, where when I was younger, I must admit, like, I was more judgmental. Like, this person gave me an attitude. Well, this person, that when you grow up, it's more about like, he gave me an attitude, but why? I'm sure there's an underlying reason. So even in business, like I think for me, even being in spaces where it's like male dominated, like my mentor would always tell me, like, Dena, leave emotions out. Like, some days it's really stressful. Like a lot of times it's like, you know, people tell me like, this seems amazing what you're doing, but they don't really see the hard work, the tears. And I remember like there would be so many times where I just like cry. I would just put the phone on mute, but then I would not want to hear any of my partners just hear me cry. Cause it's like, it's not about like showing weakness. It's more about like, you know, it's like, especially with, you know, working with men, it's like, you don't really want to show them that side. Right. So it's a lot of, you know, it's definitely made me a little a lot. You know, a lot of times it's like building that resilience, if you will, and
Yeah.
being a little more tough, and you know, separating your emotions and not really just acting on emotion, and just taking a step back and thinking. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, because you meet so many different people from different parts of the world and different cultures, and they do things a different way, and it's not personal, it's how they were, you know, brought up. So it's like there's a lot that goes into it.
There is, yeah, and you really do. You never know where somebody is coming from. It's a
Yeah.
simple thing when somebody pulls in front of you on the street or something like that, and they seem angry. Who knows where they're coming from? It doesn't mean they're always
Yeah.
like that. You know, one of the things that my wife talks about constantly, and she's in the mindfulness space. She does a lot of mindfulness work. Is breathing. Is
Yeah.
just breathing. And so a lot of the stuff you're saying, I think if you take, and it's hard to tell yourself that, right? When you get caught up, or like you said, you get emotional or whatever, it's hard to say breathe.
Yeah.
But if you can start to train yourself and teach yourself to just breathe, sometimes that'll help you adjust and prepare for whether you're in a
Yeah.
different country, like you said, and dealing with somebody that's emotional, or
Yeah.
you know, just moving forward. So I kind of went off direction there. Sorry about that, but yeah. But you were talking about the families that you work with, the family offices, and it looks like they're starting to invest in some gaming and esports stuff, and maybe that's how you met your partners now with ThunderPixel.
Well, it's actually, no, it's not really how. So when I got into the space organically, I had a client that was in real estate who needed, you know, he was a client of mine, and I onboarded my co-founder. Now we were working on his strategy. They're in real estate. They were working on like the tallest building in Long Island City, but he wanted a lot of celebrities to, you know, they wanted to host a lot of like events. And you know, my partner, that's all he does, brand activations. And you know, they didn't really have a vision of how to do that. So we were starting to work with him on that. And then he also wanted me to go to Monaco with him. He was raising capital for his fund. I was kind of new to that whole family office space, but I kind of was like, you know what, I was familiar with family offices because my mentor would mention it to me, but I didn't really understand to that extent. I mean, to that level, what kind of, they're very low key. They're very different than the kind of world that I'm used to.
Right.
You know,
And can you explain it? You know, just broad strokes.
Yeah.
Explain what a family office is as far as investing goes.
Yeah, so basically it's they care mostly about like their legacy. You know, they're privately held, and usually you know, they handle investments and investment management. So family offices, you know, different family offices will usually be interested in different sectors, and so they want to continue to really, you know, have their money invested in different areas. So usually different family offices will be geared towards different sectors, whether it's real estate or oil or fashion. But these usually we're talking big numbers. So I wasn't, and they're very low key. So the different worlds from like celebrity to like family offices, it's similar, but it's different. So
and when you say big numbers, are you talking hundreds of millions of dollars? Or?
Yeah. To start, like that's usually like the minimum of, you know, running a family office. You know, sometimes in the billions. But so I was like this girl who was just like, and the thing with me is that I learn fast, but I also am the person, if I don't know something, I don't pretend like I know it. But I usually can get on the phone in 10 minutes to somebody who knows it.
Right.
And that's what being a connector is. It's like, even when I came back from Monaco, somebody's like, Dena, oil. I'm like, oil? Like, or like, I don't know, solar energy, and then I had no idea. And I'm like, wait. And I started kind of like being able to kind of right away creatively like say, hey, I know this person. Can I make business transactions like that? Like, it was just interesting because, you know, I think once you're a connector, you're able to kind of quickly like think of ways to be like, all right, this makes sense. And when I went to Monaco, I was more of like, you know, handling relationships, because a lot of family offices are from the Middle East and they speak Arabic, and I speak Arabic. So my co-founder at the time, he was like, Dena, we're starting a mobile gaming studio. First, he was giving me equity, so I was still inspired. I'm like, you know, like I'll start indirectly talking to these family offices. And when I came back, I met with my friend, my co-founder, Eric, and I was starting to come up, like when I get passionate about something, sometimes I get ahead of myself, and it's good and bad, I guess.
Right.
So we're still on the first, title. I mean, we're working with pop culture, high profile sports figures. But then I started getting into like, in the future, we should do this game and we should use underrepresented minorities for our next character. He's like, Dena, I'm like, am I going too fast or too far? He's like, no. The next day he calls me, he's like, I love your passion. You indirectly told me you want to be, I didn't even tell him I wanted to be a co-founder, but that's the way I said it. And so he was like, you know what, you're a co-founder.
That's awesome. That's really cool. But I think, a couple things. First of all, your resourcefulness, like you talked about, that's an important thing today. And I think, first of all, what happens for me is I typically go straight to the internet, because immediately, actually, right after you said Josh Norman, I was like, I think I met Josh. Like, I was trying to remember. As you were talking, I actually went to my cell phone. I was Googled Josh Norman, and he was a cornerback for the Redskins. You're like, you can find information that fast, right? So that's super cool. And then, just what you're talking about right now with partnering and him bringing you on and you thinking ahead. I think that's a great point. When you said you're thinking ahead, we talked earlier and you were saying some people, like, they get to the end, they become Miss Arab USA and they don't know what's next. Whereas you're already thinking 1, 2, 5, 10 steps ahead. And so you still got to stay focused on what's right in front of you right now. But you have stuff that's like, as you hit that, you now know that these other things are lining up. And I think that those big dreams and those big visions then allow you to kind of navigate the minefield and I think get to, the ultimate goal. But the ultimate goal, you never actually reach it, right? It's always moving. So
that's
cool.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I wasn't really like, again, I looked at the contract, but I wasn't like, well, this percent and I want more. It was more of like, okay, that's cool. Anyways, I think this should be done in the future. That like, and we were casually talking. I actually asked him this one time, like, what made you make me a co-founder? He's like, Dena, you actually said it. He's like, you kept saying we should do this, we should do that. He's like, you made me feel like you're part of our team. And I didn't even notice that. It was more of like, again, like, it was just authentic. I was just excited. I'm like, he's like, you gave it to yourself. You asked for it. And he made me really think. He's been a great mentor for me too. Like, I would be nervous. I'm like, well, I don't know. Should I ask? Should I? Not in this specific scenario. There's been times where I would be nervous to ask for what I want. And I noticed that he made me realize in anything in business, it's like, if you don't ask for what you want, you're not going to get it. It's just that simple. It's like, sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes I'll tell the person and they're like, okay. I'm like, wow. And I thought this was going to be a whole argument. It's like, just ask for what you want. And sometimes just, being organically, like, people will see the passion in you and they'll see how involved you are and how creative you are and just organically just onboard you,
So where are you guys right now in the maturation process of this specific project? Because it sounds like one of the things that the fund or ThunderPixel Gaming is that you guys are creating a title. You're creating a game.
So we're creating a whole, it's basically a whole basically a whole studio game that will be different titles of mobile games. So and the theme of it is pop culture. And so we're at the very beginning stage. We're actually originally it was supposed to be a console game, and so we revamped, I would say maybe like around holidays. It was all set and everything was set that it was going to be a mobile game for so many different reasons. I mean, it was just a great kind of like it was a better approach for us. And so we're at the very beginning stage. So we're in the process of raising capital. So.
Okay. And I've never gone through this process, by the way. So when you're talking about console game, PC game, mobile game, they have to be programmed differently. I'm assuming. Like, I don't do that. So how many, are you hiring programmers now? Is it really conceptual at this point, or?
So we have our team already. We have Chance is our developer. He's our co-founder. He co-created Call of Duty, so he'll be hands-on once we raise the capital for the development of the big different games that we create and develop. And we have like advisors that have been working in the past for like eSports and huge titles. So we have a pretty solid team in terms of their portfolios and what they've done in the past and titles. And So we're confident in that aspect.
And so what does your day-to-day look like right now? Your day-to-day basically is you have a specific number that you're trying to hit as far as a raise goes.
Yeah.
And then once you hit that raise, then you guys take off and everything,
Yeah.
right now.
So with that, yeah. So it's for now, it's definitely like not a side thing, but it's the raise. It can be a little frustrating for sure. I got into it. I'm like, I'm around a lot of people with a lot of wealth. This should be easy. We're only raising 5 million, but it's the opposite. It's like the networks that I'm involved, like that I'm surrounded by. It's like they don't look at startups. They don't really have the time. Like,
Right.
like it's not in their interest, and let alone people who get esports and mobile games. So that combined, it's been a little bit, I wouldn't really say a chat for my circle. We've had a lot of interest with, Eric's, from Eric's side. We've had interest on my side as well. And we've had some talks with, hosting a launch / raise. Well, they were talking in the Middle East, the UAE, they were talking and they showed interest, and certain individuals from the Middle East showed interest to fund us. And then this was, I think, around holidays, and then we reconnected February, and then Corona happened. But interestingly, a lot of people, they would reach out to me on LinkedIn during this pandemic and ask me, hey, tell us a little bit more about like mobile games, because obviously at a time like this, it's like if you understand the numbers, the potential of this, just mobile games in general, and then the feedback is like, they see that we have somebody like Chance Glasgow who's literally sold millions and billions of copies in the past and co-created Call of Duty. The feedback is like, we want to invest in your team more than,
right.
That's besides like our games are including very, very high profile sports figures and celebrities, but our team is, I think it's it makes us very unique in that aspect. So, but it's definitely been on and off kind of like, I think anybody who's tried to kind of raise, regardless of how amazing your team is, it's usually people are usually waiting for the first person to make that like jump or make that investment,
Yeah. I see what you're saying, for sure, because then then it starts to flow after that. Well, are you guys looking more domestically? I mean, you it sounds like you're still based in New York and you're working out of New York, but you're flying over to Morocco, and so it's North Africa, and then you're in the UAE. Are you global as far as your outreach goes? And do you feel that not being able to travel at this time right now and having to do things just through phone or through Zoom, or is that making it more challenging? I had a conversation the other day. The reason I asked is I had a conversation with Joey Brander the other day, and he's with First Serve Partners and Overactive Media, and he invests in a lot of esports businesses, and he travels a ton. And he said he hasn't been traveling nearly as much, but he's actually been more productive because
I was going to say that.
So not having to travel, saves you a lot of time, and you're able to get a lot of things done, but you don't actually get to shake hands and meet face to face with people. So how do you think that's been affecting you guys, if at all?
So that's what's interesting is even before this pandemic, it was a lot of it was virtual and reaching out via WhatsApp and connecting with people. After I came from Monaco, I think my network in general, I was connecting with people from all over the world, but specifically the Middle East, just not even meeting them, but just making those connections without even meeting them. So even when I went to Dubai, I had like a few meetings lined up with people that I've been talking, not necessarily all of them talking business, but just building that relationship with. So I think it depends what industry you're in, but for us, even though we're in the beginning stage of raising capital, I think it's no different, because a lot of the outreach was, okay, what are you guys doing? Oh, this is your team. Let me see the teaser. So it's meeting in person. I think it's more of like, okay, when it's finalized and we're about to shake hands and close the deal after the term sheet kind of thing. So it's like, for us, it's not a huge difference. But I will say, like, I was thinking, if we had launched this during this time, I mean, again, I never like to say like, should have or could have. Everything was within its timing. I believe it's always meant to be how it's, coming about. But I definitely think, mobile gaming during this time, it's definitely a very lucrative place to kind of put your money and invest for sure. But it hasn't really affected much of, communicating and communication with different people. So it hasn't really changed much.
And I apologize. Did you say Monaco? And I thought you said Morocco?
Monaco, yeah.
Okay. My bad. I said North Africa. Okay, Monaco.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have faced, and it's exactly to your point, is I'm really involved in the youth space. And my main initiative and project when I left traditional pro sports with the Miami Marlins was to get involved in organizing the youth space, because I saw it from the top down, right? I saw all this money being poured into these professional organizations through Overwatch League, League of Legends, and then the colleges are starting to build out, and then the high schools are starting to add this programming in. But I saw the grassroots areas in an area that really need organization. And I was getting prepared to open with the city of Fort Lauderdale, brick and mortar location in Fort Lauderdale, like the week before this all happened. And so in a way it didn't happen. We got delayed as far as our opening goes. And I think we were blessed in that sense, because if we had opened doors and then 2 weeks later, nobody could go out and visit our space, we'd just be sitting there right now with an empty space and, for 2 or 3 months and maybe longer. We still don't know, right? We still don't know. Yes, business is coming back to a certain degree, but how much it's going to come back, we're not sure yet. So, yeah. So ThunderPixel, so that's your main, it sounds like that's your main, under your umbrella, your thesis and what you guys are moving forward with is that gaming piece. Is there anything else that you guys are doing aside from becoming a studio? Are you working in the content creation side? Because obviously that's a big part of things right now as far as content goes. Are there other elements of ThunderPixel that
so once we're focusing on the first title that it's going to be sports related. We have the talent already and agreed to work with us, and we're that's our main focus right now. Even the next title we do have in mind, my co-founder has in mind a few ideas in terms of which pop culture individuals that we want to include. Obviously, like, I'll have my input in certain ideas, and I'm definitely excited because being able to kind of, and it didn't really hit me, I think. Sorry, I had a call. Okay. I think it happened so fast that I didn't really, I'll be honest, like the gaming space, I didn't notice the lack of women in these spaces. And I think I don't know if it's me being humble. I was just kind of like, oh, this is cool. I didn't really know that there is power in being a woman, just being a woman co-founder in this space, and the kind of ideas that you could implement and the kind of creativity that not a lot, like, I think for me, it's like being able to not, me being in this space alone, I think I have a responsibility to kind of really be, paving that way for other girls and women who are interested to kind of be in this space too. So I'm definitely excited for future ideas and titles that I know that, they'll hear me out with the different ideas that I come up with. And I definitely think it's something that it's a passion of mine. I think even in the beginning when I was like, again, how does gaming connect to what I'm doing? It's like, growing up, even, when I founded my company, it was the basis of not seeing representation. It was not seeing, the narrative. It wasn't, I wanted to see more. I wanted to be at the forefront of mainstream media. So gaming, in a sense, it's, it's a narrative. It's, it's building a storyline. It's, being able to kind of, put certain characters and, and building through a vision. So I think it all kind of connects somehow.
Yeah, it definitely does. I'm just, and I'm thinking about you guys in right now, once you have the raise, it's actually making a game, the production of a game, developing a game, the game design is actually a pretty long tail, right? I mean, it's not going to take 3 or 4 months to do something like that. It's probably going to take a year, 2 years. I mean, I've never.
So I asked, again, I was new to this space. So my partner said it was estimated like 10 to 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so 10 to 12 months. So
yeah, and this is just you and I talking, but based on narratives and based on a lot of things you're talking to women in esports and the things you've done and the people you know, I think it'd be amazing, to do something along, whether it's like a fashion, a game. Yeah, I've thought about this for the art world. I just for my kids, because I'm trying to talk to different people, mostly mothers, about how gaming isn't just them going in and playing games. My son yesterday on Minecraft came out and showed my wife and I he had built our entire house in Minecraft. Yeah, so we went. He's like, look, and I almost identical, except for that Minecraft doesn't have the ability because everything is like three feet, I guess. I can't explain it exactly, but it doesn't. He doesn't have all the exact tools to make that happen. I'm like, Zane, this is amazing because what you've done is basically architecture and design. You go to school for what you just did. And so I'm thinking, like, because of all the fashion you've done, can you actually make a game, that's geared more maybe at women or females, or maybe not. Maybe, Zoolander is one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you ever watched Zoolander.
Yeah.
But, with the walk-off and everything. But, could you create a game around being a talk show host like Oprah, or being in fashion and design, and there's a runway. I don't know, just based on what you're saying. There's it's just based on your own creativity, and I think it's an amazing opportunity for you based on what you're doing and what you guys start raising money. And obviously you've got successful people that have built out shooters, first person shooters and other types of games, but maybe there's a whole nother line of games that haven't even been created yet that you could spearhead.
Right. Well, that's why I think it's, and I think it's definitely like when I got on board, it's, like you always reflect. And I think anybody reflects on like new opportunities. I'm like, well, gaming, watching movies, like, I think